So today is your opportunity where we will be speaking to Elize Roux, the Managing Director of Xpello, and you will get the opportunity to ask whatever questions you have. Now, if you are too shy to ask your question publicly, my WhatsApp number I have popped there into the chat. You're welcome to WhatsApp me the question if you feel comfortable. You're also welcome to send me a direct message if you don't want me. If you say direct message or you do WhatsApp, I won't mention your name. Well, if you say do WhatsApp, I probably won't know your name. So then you are safe, because I know some people get a little bit embarrassed or feel there's no such thing as a stupid question, guys. Let's sort that out from the start in terms of housekeeping. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask. So please don't worry about asking anything you like. The reality is other people will learn from the answer. That happens every single day of my life. None of us know everything. Some of us, as I often tell people, just have made more mistakes. Good morning, Sherry. Good morning, Michelle from Umhlanga. Oh, I spoke to my sister yesterday. I believe it's lekker warm there, which is totally the opposite of what we do. Anyhow, Elize, welcome. Good morning, goeiemorgen, and all those things I said already. What we're going to do is I just want to give you a quick background, or why, maybe not background, just why I actually decided to ask Elize, because I suppose the logical one would have been TPN, but Elize is the MD of Xpello Eviction Management and Property Investment Solutions. And one of the things they do, and Elize, I know I'm not allowed to use the word insurance. I'm sure there's a legal reason for that. But they manage eviction processes, and they have a product whereby you pay a certain amount a month and then your eviction costs are covered. And the reason I say that, and I'm going to let Elize explain this herself, the reason I say that is because one of the things they have to do is manage their risk. I mean, Elize would not be in business at the moment if they took on high risk tenants. So Elize's future, Elize's whole business revolves around the fact of managing risk and making sure that the risk is balanced. So Elize, in saying that, I'm going to hand over to you to explain what you do and how you do it, and then we'll get on to those sort of basics that we covered yesterday. So I will try and keep quiet for a moment.
Thank you, Shaun. It's always fantastic to be on your group. I mean, you are someone that's been in the industry for long and has a lot of experience. So for those that don't know me, I'm a qualified attorney, and Xpello was established about 4.5 years ago. And what we've been doing is, it's absolutely correct, is we are not an insurance, we're a service, because we get involved very shortly after the default has taken place. And just to say, before Xpello, while I was still actively in the law firm, we gave a lot of trainings on, the type of vetting you're going to do.
Sorry, Elize, you forgot to tell me to record.
That's fine. So what we've learned is that, there's a process to do your vetting, and, we were very strict on that. And then since last year, especially since COVID, we sort of realized the normal way of vetting has changed. And there's many other things that we had to look at. Because the defaults that we are working with at this stage is much more than that has been in the past. And the type of people that's defaulting and the reasons. So I'm quite excited to share this knowledge of what Xpello has been experiencing in the past year with the people online today. But yes, our focus is to make sure that the tenants that we accept as far as possible, because yes, I still agree. If you do your vetting to the best of your ability, at least you are taking as much proactive steps that you can take. And then there's a bit of good faith that is left, and hope that everything keeps well for the rest of the period. I know people don't want to think of business that way, but unfortunately, that's how it is these days with the rental market. So we have to look at people, because if we just accept anyone under any circumstances, Xpello will not be able to go all the way, because we'll do more evictions than anything else. But on the other hand, if we are so strict and we don't look at it in a different way, we will have nobody on the books, because I think that is where many of the rental guarantees are, that you have to be so clean that you won't, there's no defaults. And I have to say, these days, there's very seldom people that's got such clean credit records, because many people opted for the payment holidays. But it doesn't mean that they are bad tenants. So I'm quite excited, Shaun, to look at everything and tell people as to what we at Xpello think as a guideline. Just to say, Xpello don't do vetting, okay? So we rely on the agents to do their vetting. And the reason why we are very confident, and the partners we work with, is that they've got very good vetting processes in place. Shaun gave a very fantastic vetting course, a masterclass on that. And, that's what we always promote and say, if you follow those processes, we are really like the second thing to capture to bounce off, but the vetting lies with the agents. So Shaun, shall we jump into it? I see you are on mute.
Sorry, I did put myself on mute because I remembered that I had to open some examples. Okay, let's jump into it. Guys, you are going to notice that I might look like a deer in the headlights sometimes. I've got about 120 pages open. So firstly, Elize, you mentioned in the intro there, sorry, I'm off mute, aren't I?
Yes, you are.
Okay. You mentioned there that vetting is not just credit checking. Do you want to expand on that? What you believe is important?
Okay, so we are also excited. I think we've got a free online portal for our Xpello clients, and we actually brought in the 3 questions, which I deem to be very important to look at. The first thing is the person who he says he is? I know in brackets, the easy way to summarize is just to say, FICA, have you done the FICA? But, I want a confirmation to know, are you satisfied that the person is the same person that's on the documents and all of that? The second thing that I think is quite important is to see if the person can afford it, affordability. Now, we're going to go into that in a bit more detail.
I've just shared my screen where we made some notes yesterday. I don't know, do you want us to work according to those bullet points we put together?
We can pop it up. And the nice thing is, as we talk, and something comes up, that's the nice thing about this conversation thing, is we can address it. But the second thing is, of course, is affordability. And, if somebody can afford it, and I think affordability is one of the very difficult things to always determined, because somebody can earn a big salary doesn't mean per se that they can afford the rental that they are staying in. So that's a nice thing to have a look at. And of course, the third one is the signs if somebody has been evicted or has been a bad tenant. Now, people are saying to me, Elize, how do I know somebody's evicted? Because nobody's going to bring a rental application and say, yes, I've been evicted before. But I think what is nice is when we look at the credit checks, is these small things that people can use as a guidance. There are warning signs. And I think also that will help you to ask, why are we getting some documents? To see the surrounding things. So that's the 3 major things. So Xpello usually says, is if you are happy with those 3 things, that is almost more important to me than the credit check sometimes when considering applicants on our side.
Okay. So just to clarify, and I think I've just shared my screen there where we made some points yesterday. So the verification is, when we're talking verification, we're talking about essentially, and I think most credit check bureaus include this, is where they confirm the person, the real person is the person they say they are through Home Affairs. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, something there in terms of, and I know I'm probably putting you on the spot here, but the whole morning is going to be on the spot, isn't it? Or the whole hour is going to be on the spot.
I love it.
Something that when I did some research, we're talking about foreigners, okay? And certain areas of clients work a lot in the foreigner market, if I can put it that way. And I believe it's a criminal offense to enter into a lease agreement with an illegal alien, I suppose we can call it, whatever the technical term is. Please don't write to somebody about the words I'm using. That of course is a big issue, because there's all sorts of ways you can be legally in this country. Any guidance there?
Yeah, I think especially these days with home affairs being so in arrears, and then they
Oh,
give amnesties, and so somebody's papers could have been expired, but they said they have applied. So
mm,
that makes a very very difficult thing. But with foreigners, I think the biggest thing is, if you look at, most of the papers has got a photo on. Is the photo the same as the person? I do think you have to verify, and then look at the birth date, the date of birth. I mean, if
mm.
somebody's born in the 1950s, but they look like they are 20 years old, there's something wrong.
Yeah, they'll
Uh,
look a little bit worse than me.
but you just have to, I know it's a bit difficult, but I mean, take that guidelines. If they on the papers, it should say where they are from. I mean, if somebody is, there is some guidance, you will be able to see. So just see, and I you want to say very skillfully, use some of your logic and
Mm.
see what is that connection.
I mentioned this yesterday when we were preparing. You know that old thing where they used to talk about paint by numbers, and you've got this
Yeah,
quality with the numbers in it. And to me, it's like you're trying to do a little bit of an investigation, so you can paint a picture for a landlord. Because in the end, in the industry that we work in, we are simply making a representation to a landlord who, in the end, is taking the decision. But we have to empower them with that knowledge and with that information. So we really just we're sketching a sort of a scenario. Am I right?
that's correct. That is correct.
Okay.
Um, I just want to see somebody is there we go. There the sound is off. Um, uh, we have to look at everything, and that's absolutely what you're saying is, use all of the bits and pieces of data. That's where you really take out you're going to find, you're going to go through every detail and make sure how it fits in.
Mm, mm. Now, initially for the affordability, sorry, my process, I tend to do the credit check later, okay? Because point number one, it costs money and all those sorts of things. But to me, it's a matter of there's certain. Sorry, and I know we've got you here for your knowledge, so I'm not trying to take over, but I do certain basics now. In which case, we eliminate people. I always say that when we are trying to get a tenant for a property, the first process, tenants eliminate us, okay, in terms of ads and things like that, because they decide which property they want to pursue in viewings and all those sorts of things. And then the next stage, we start eliminating based on certain criteria. So initial affordability, I always work on the 1 to 3 principle, and specifically on net income. I don't take their gross, because I mean, Cyril takes some of the money, and we don't get to spend that. So I don't see any purpose. Anything I'm advising wrongly there?
No, no, you're absolutely correct. It all comes down, what is the money in the bank? I mean, to determine affordability, I want to almost say it's your net salary going into your bank account, less all of your debit orders. That is the first cash
Mm,
that you start with working on, before you even go further. And we have to
mm.
remember, people need to eat and people need to drive and all of those things. So you can't just even
And
go on
send
the
their
debit
kids to
order
school.
and send their kids
Not
to
having
school.
kids, I don't understand, but I understand it's a lot. Well, I understand you have to send them to school, but I understand there's quite a lot of money. So there's all those things that come into it.
Mm. And that's,
Yeah.
I think
So,
that is why the bank statements, so we never look at, we're not going to find comb through a bank statement, but that's why the agents has to go through the bank statements,
mhm,
to check to see what is the recurring payments they are making. When are
mhm,
they making these payments, and when is these payments are going into their account? So, for example, just one thing, because I think this really bugs me, is if you can see the salary goes into somebody's account on the 3rd of every month, don't make the
mhm,
lease agreement that the rent has to be paid on the 1st, because you're going to have a problem every month. But
mhm, mhm.
that is just something that is always important to me.
Um, Employment and income. And as you know from my masterclass, I have a whole lot of questions that I sort of have pre-prepared. And these days, COVID comes into them because I've adapted that. And when I did your masterclass in January, I think it was, now on your birthday, the 23rd.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I remember. Oh,
Yeah.
I can still
26.
remember
But we.
something. Then we start asking questions like, and it became a moot point. At that point, we were sort of in between, well, not in between lockdowns. We were at a comfortable level in lockdown there. And it seemed a bit ridiculous to ask these questions. But since 2 weeks ago, it probably makes sense again to ask these questions, to say to people, and we're going to get to credit checks, guys, but it goes to the point of, were people affected in lockdown? Did they go into short time? Did they go into furlough? Was the income affected? At what level was it affected? And it seemed a moot point in January, because it seemed like, oh, Shaun, the horse has bolted. Why on earth are you doing it? But I think it's just shown that this thing is so unpredictable that we're back on level 4 now. And some people who weren't affected 2 weeks ago are now affected again. And I feel terrible saying it now. But we have to protect our landlords. That's our job.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, what people, just to say, Shaun, what we're discussing now is actually information that is in the credit check in some instances. And I think it's important to give this pre-information before you just go look at the numbers and the information on the credit check, so people can know what to look for and, what they're missing. And also people have to know that, last year, everybody was in a good space. We all in the Ubuntu mode, helping each other. But now the money is up. People are feeling the pinch. So that's why landlords, I don't think it's unreasonable of them not to be that forgiving anymore, because they are relying on the income.
Yeah, I mean, yes, let's not all get depressed, but the problem is that the process does, the whole situation just gets worse and it exacerbates. And we all know this is a long-term situation. So in terms of checking employment and income and things like that, and finding out where people, I think it's important. Do you agree that where were people furloughed, so that we can say to the landlord, if this happens again, then it's a possibility. But then again, we also ask questions when if we look at previous and current landlords, for example, which is another step that I have in my process, and we ask them, the other important question that's in that questionnaire is, did they enter into a repayment agreement or a payment arrangement? And did they keep to the terms of that? Because I think that's another thing that was a bit of a boo-boo right at the start. Because, I mean, we were all a little bit clueless, weren't we? Some of us pretended to know more than other people, but in the end, nobody knew where we were going. And it was, we'll repay after the state of disaster and things like that, which in hindsight, I mean, I think a lot of people wish they didn't do that, because this state of disaster ain't going nowhere. So asking people those sorts of questions is, do you come across, when you are doing this, a lot of people who still have debt?
Yes. Shaun, I think what is one of the important things to know is the fact that tenants applied for arrangements, or, might still have some of those debt, doesn't per se mean it's a bad thing. It all comes down as to how they're paying it. One of the things that many agents and everybody has to know, and believe it or not, there are still people that is leasing, that's renting a property, and that is not on TPN or PayProp or We Connect You. So there's still a lot of data out there that is not being captured. So I think to speak to landlords, yes, one will have to ask clever questions to get that data, because that's where you want to get the information that might not be on the credit check. The other thing is also, what I want to say is, I've seen that so many times in the past, especially when I did the evictions and so forth, where part of the agreement is the tenant will remove the non-payments and, the listings on condition that the person vacates. So, the previous landlord... the previous landlord really just wants those people out of the property. And I'm saying this without judgment, because people are desperate. So, so to ask questions like for the rental statement, it's not just to see if they're in arrears or not, because that's something you can fix easily, but it's to see on what dates that they make payments. And I usually say to my agents, when you ask for the rental statement, don't tell them it's to see whether you've been paying. It's to say to them, in terms of FICA, we want the proof of address. So that is a rather, it's a way of getting a document to look at something that you actually want to see, because nobody's going to go and clean up history for 12 months. If they really want to, that really wants to be done.
Well, I mean, if you're an agent and you're working on a trust account, you can't go and fiddle it because you're not going to reconcile. So the reality is that it has to be the reality. Otherwise, your bank statements and your reconciliations are going to be out. So I mean, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, but you have to remember, many people work on, many people aren't on those systems, or you have an Excel spreadsheet. Do you know how many landlords I work with, and if I ask for a rental statement, they can't produce one, so they have to go make one. So there's a lot of things like that is very dangerous. And remember, there's a big movement of, I want to say, investors to manage their own properties. And people are trying to save money. And I want to say save money for all the agents, because, they don't always see the value, and people lose out because it's sort of saving money now and then paying for it later.
Yes, unfortunate, but that's a discussion for another day. So in my process, and you know my process by now, I do that before I even get to the credit check. Okay, all of those checks and balances, because once again, it's not just this credit check. It's about coloring in that so that I know if I even want to go to the point of looking at the credit check. And as I think you correctly said, well, of course you correctly said, you're a lawyer, no? But as you mentioned, that this gives us context for when we look at the credit check. So some things that might look a little bit weird on the credit check, we'll be able to color in and understand the reasoning and all that sort of things. But things like you've said, which I probably need to work into my process, about which day does the salary get paid, etc., etc. I don't even look at that. If we come to the credit check itself, I've dealt with agents who will say to me when I say, whatever, and they'll say, well, what score do you accept? Okay, and I'll be honest with you, I don't understand them scores. And I'm just I've got a pre-prepared, it's like a cooking show now. I pre-prepared something here quickly. And I'm just going to pop it onto my screen. If you can just give me a moment to find my way around.
While you're looking for that, if I can just say, people must remember there's many different credit checks out there. You have your Experian credit check, you have your TransUnion credit check, you have your TPN one, you've got your PayProp one. I think there's a few other out there as well. Please just remember, what I've seen that was surprising is I pulled a TransUnion and Experian, and both are on the same person, and not all the defaults showed on both of the records. So be careful to go firstly and get the cheapest one to save money again. Because I think many times those things are generated for a specific market. So like I said, some defaults will show on TransUnion, but not on Experian. So that's one of the things to be careful of.
And you bring up an interesting point, and this is an unprepared point. These are, I don't know what they call those places like Experian, are they called credit bureaus or something like that?
Yeah.
They're the source data. Do people subscribe to different ones? So for example, a certain company might lodge something on a certain one, whereas another company will lodge it on a different one. Is that how it works?
Yeah, I think you will then submit it differently. Like, I don't know for judgments where the court, remember, if a judgment is granted, the court will send it through. Now, I don't know how they take their leisure time to do it. But I mean, the courts will send the actual judgments it's supposed to go to both of them. But I do think it's different platforms where they only pull the data which that platform thinks is necessary. So that's why some people will say, for example, we use the one platform, and I can choose if I want this one, or this one. And, that gives you options. And it was just quite interesting. So really, I go test it, see if you pull the different ones. I know TPN, I think, combines. I think PayProp as well combines some of the data. So that does help, but it doesn't take everything.
Okay. Now, I think that's quite important because the reality is the cost of a credit check in the bigger scheme of things, and given the risk that we're looking at compared to the potential rent that might be lost, just looking at 1 month's rent, you work it out, it's probably not even a 1% cost. Yeah? So it might actually be worthwhile, from what you're saying, drawing from more than one source to color in that paint by numbers pictures. And those of you that are younger than me and don't know what paint by numbers are, I'm sure Google said it. Oh, Tina said, we have to sign up with the different platforms in order to submit our, oh, thank you, Tinas. Tinas has just answered me on that point, that we have to sign up with the different platforms in order to submit our data, a collective payment, to submit a collective payment profile for our tenants. So that answers that. So it might be worthwhile, especially in these times that we're in. And I'm not, I was going to say, I'm not going to say unprecedented, but of course I've said it. No. Elize, you can see this CompuScan inquiry that I've got on here. Huh?
Yeah.
Look, the source is unimportant. There's just a few questions I want to ask you here. Now, the first thing is it talks about matches and loans and all that gooders. That match, I think, if refers to the Home Affairs match. In other words, it's found the person exists, or at least the ID number exists, and it corresponds to the details that we have provided. When we now come to, and CPA accounts, which I think is the Credit Providers Association, these are like formal businesses like banks and things like that, I think is my understanding. And maybe Tinas will know more than me. The NLR, which I understand is the National Loan Register or Registry. And to my understanding, that is like the Wongas, etc. And I don't mean any disrespect by saying that. I just understand that's a higher risk credit that's available, is my understanding. So I've always understood, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that CPA accounts are people who are generally lower risk. If one starts seeing larger numbers of NLR accounts, it's a bit of a warning sign. Is there any light you can shed on that, if I'm right or wrong?
Yeah, I think especially that is where instances where a person is not coming out with their salary. So you get those advances that is really, they advance you your payment and then your salary gets paid in. They take the full amount and then now they again can't survive, so they take another loan. So that means you can't work on that affordability and they can't afford to work on it. So definitely something to be aware of.
Okay, so you need to make sure that you have this sort of information available in whatever source you're using. And more, and from what you're saying, and I didn't think of this before, it might actually be worthwhile investigating having more than one source.
Yeah, well, remember as well, that's why the bank, you'll be able to pick that up from the bank statements as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so remember, you are going to have the bank statements. I don't want to I know we're saying to people be diligent, but I don't want everybody to go and pull now 5 CompuScans and go into panic mode.
No, sorry, yeah, I'm also not, I'm not intending to create panic. Sorry, that's not my intention. Elize, this stuff here, which I think we often don't look at because we don't really understand it. No, but you're the lawyer, so you can help because you've probably applied for some of these things for people. Collections. What does collections mean?
It means that, somebody's been in default and most probably they've referred it to a debt collector or a collection company to collect that money for, to collect the arrears.
So it's a warning sign. So if that's not zero, we've got to be cautious. Is that what you say?
Yes, I think that means there's things to look for to investigate.
Okay. Judgments, I've always just assumed there's been a court judgment. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so something has gone as far as the courts and a judgment has been made. I know I've had people that have said to me before in credit checks, oh, but I didn't know about that. Can a judgment be done without somebody knowing about it?
Yes. You know what that is? Remember, many times people, when you sign a contract, you put in your domicilium address. Mm-hmm. And then what the attorneys do is they then serve it on that place. Now, if you're no longer there, remember, the service doesn't need to be on you personally. So if they go and serve it on, for example, on a tenant for the landlord, there's a good chance the tenant might not give it to the landlord. or they just attach it to the door and there's a storm and it goes off. So, I mean, to be honest, I think many attorneys go, oh, I really hope these people don't see the summons, because then we can get judgment and they don't have to fight it, and save money.
Okay.
So
Is that a
it can
default
happen.
judgment or something?
Default judgment, yes.
Okay. Notices and admin orders. What's that?
Okay, so admin order is a process that was followed to say that a certain amount must be paid out to your creditors. So to say that it's almost like debt review, where they say, okay, now there's an order that every month, instead of paying bears 1,000 rand, you pay them 200 rand. And that administration orders are in place to make certain payments.
Okay. Lauren, I've seen your comment. I'm going to get to that now. And then something that you mentioned yesterday, and this just happens to be this example that I have here. Previous inquiries, addresses, telephone numbers, employers. You had some thoughts on that when we had our initial discussion yesterday.
Yeah, I think that is things that it's not beside just the address or the employer or so forth that is important. I think one of the things that is sort of a guidance, a coloring of the picture is if somebody moves around a lot, it shows to you there's a warning sign, because nobody can love moving that much. I mean, you're packing up, going through everything. So definitely you don't want to, want to see why is somebody moving around a lot. The other thing is if somebody is also jumping jobs, how secure is the income? Maybe he can only work for 3 months and then he gets fired. So that's also things to look out for as to what is the stability of a person. You don't want somebody that jumps around a lot.
Okay. Yeah, if somebody moves, it might be because somebody's chasing them.
Yeah, or they stay as long as they can, and then they have to move before it becomes ugly, or before they get judgments. That's why people can get evicted more than twice, and nobody even knows.
Now that's the point I want to ask. There is no such thing as an eviction register. No, this is the one thing we have a gap in. But if somebody has been evicted, does that mean they'll have a judgment against them?
No.
Aish.
So that's why Xpello is, I think that's where many clients sort of always, if I said to them, if there's a real warning sign, we will compare it to our limited register that we have, because we are combining a register with all of the eviction orders granted. Remember, the judgment...
Sorry. Say that again slowly, about the register, about the eviction orders.
So Xpello has an eviction register. Because we
of just the evictions you do?
Yes. So we have an arrangement with our attorneys as well. So they give us data, and with the courts going online as well, we are starting to build that data as to people that has been evicted before.
Okay, so we're starting to get, or people like you are starting to get access to that, because that's one thing that's always bothered me is, and in my process that I go through, I talk about asking the current landlords, but I know that they might not be fully
honest.
They might not tell us everything, because if you want to get rid of somebody, you're not going to tell people you want to get rid of them, because then you're never going to get rid of them. I've had the same problem. But so what you're saying is the courts are going online, so we might have access to that sort of information, because that's a big gap.
Yeah. So that's why Xpello is really focusing on building our register and getting that data together, because it's not a money judgment. So because it's not a money judgment, your credit bureaus are not capturing that data.
Okay, yeah, because for those that haven't done this, getting the money back and getting the people out are two different processes. Am I right?
Correct, yes.
And a lot of people just want them out and they don't chase the money. Is that correct?
Yes, or even worse is the people are so focused on the money, they don't focus on getting them out, which is very detrimental.
Okay, but if they focus on the money, then we'll most likely have a judgment.
Yeah, but then you most probably not going to pull the credit check because the people are still going to be in the property of the other landlord, fighting to get the money out of the tenants. Remember,
Oh,
yeah, because just because you
I'm
get
with you.
judgment for money doesn't mean they have to move out.
Uh, oh, of course. You just want your money. Yo. This is getting worse, no? Okie dokies. So we've talked about people that move around a lot, change their phones a lot, change employment a lot. Fraud alerts. Do you understand this more than me?
I think that is where it has been brought up that, if you reported your ID stolen, or you've been involved in any fraudulent instances,
Mm,
I think that where it will pop up. So,
okay.
I mean, if somebody stole my ID and they applied for it, and then that alert will come up and say, listen, this Elize that is applying is most probably not Elize. So just make sure it is indeed Elize.
Okay. Now, Elise, yesterday, did you manage to get some redacted information on that credit check that you have, the TPM one?
Yeah, so I did it a bit old school. I copied and pasted certain things and then I changed it. So I've got the TPN one as well.
We all go back to old school when we get stuck. Now, you and I, you and I have enough experience to go back to old school. Okay, because this fits in nicely. Sorry, I'm going to stop sharing because I think you're going to want to share now. This fits in nicely with Lauren's comment here, where she says that TPN combined TransUnion and Experian, and they also, oopsie, thanks for sharing because now I've just, oopsie, okay, Elise.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I just needed you just to wait a moment because when you shared, all my chat disappeared. Sorry. So we learn. TPN combined TransUnion and Experian. And they also supply data on payment profiles of people, which is what we're going to look at now. That's why I want to seg into this. And then Lauren says she thinks for residential letting TPN, which is linked to PayProp and most other rental management platforms, is the best option to get an overall picture. So if we could, now you're welcome to share because then I will just watch and keep quiet.
Okay, so I didn't take the full TPN report. So I took part of it that is quite relevant. So the part that Lauren is referring to is this part on a TPN check. I just want to see if I can make that drawing thingy of mine to go smaller or away. There we go. Let me put you on the top. Okay, so that is the payment things that Lauren is referring to show
Mm,
the payments made by tenants in the past.
mm,
Pay late, partially paid, and did not pay. This one has got a did not pay. So what I liked about this one is just to show that you can see a bit of a history. I only took two of these things as to how the people stayed. So I usually say on a credit check, look at the gap between the two records. Ask the person where he was. I mean, if somebody leased, for example, this one was
mm,
until 2016, and then nothing happened, and then in 2019 again. Now, it
mm,
might be that this person couldn't afford it at that stage. So it makes sense that they got their life in order, and now, they in 2018 they started again.
mm,
And then
mm,
I always say it. What is important to me is, what was their payment history? Why did they pay late? But how did they pay on time? Quite interesting that this one went quite well up until May last year when we went into the COVID period.
mm,
But then if you look at the next history, it's clearly they moved and then a new history started.
mm. Okay. Now, something important here, maybe, Elise, is that information is only available if somebody submits it.
Yes.
It's not an automated submission in most cases. So everybody wants this information when they're doing, and sorry, I'm just going to make this point. Everybody wants this information when they're checking somebody. But if we don't submit that information, all of us together, then there's going to be less information available. So I think that's quite important as well.
Yeah, well, that's why TPN always push, and so I know for them, if you don't submit data, you won't get data.
Yeah.
That is the way that they sort of make sure that people are submitting. So that is the other thing. And I just want to show also that plays a role. If somebody had defaulted on their rental, and for example, you'll see this one, it says the rental was 10,000 and here it was 7,000, there's you show the increase. If somebody defaulted and they're moving to a more affordable place, that is a good sign to me. Okay. It shows me that this person is responsible. They saw they no longer can afford it. They defaulted for 2 months and they're moving to a more affordable place. Now, they defaulted. It doesn't mean they're still in arrears. Most probably it got settled and so forth. But that's information that Xpello find very important is, are they moving when they know they can't afford where they are staying? And are they affording to something more in their budget? We are
Okay.
worried about the people that don't take responsibility. People that wants to continue staying in the high life, although they can't afford it.
You took those words right out of my mouth, which was responsibility. It's not often that somebody's fast enough to take words out of my mouth, but anyhow, congratulations. So that's a perfect example. So I think one of the messages here is let's all share the information, because if we don't share the information, we can't get the information. Is there anything else on? I'm a bit limited with my screen while you're on there. So is there anything else you want to share there?
Okay,
Before
so
we move over to questions, because I think you and I have been talking quite a lot. Oh, what's that?
Okay, so just on the top part, I know so we looked at your screen and you see here on the TPN one, it actually refers to debt review as well. And just to say that Xpello, we actually consider our debt review people, because again, it shows to me somebody's responsible, they know they're over indebted and they need help. But the second question that's almost more important is, are they keeping to it? So if somebody tells me they're under debt review, but they're not keeping to it, no, I'm not interested. Again, it shows me your character. So the judgments, it plays a role, but always sees when the judgment was granted and for what. So that's always a nice summary what they are doing. I know TPN is also what they're doing is, can they afford it? Now, the probability of squatting, I don't know how they determine that value. Okay, so one thing that I've learned is, and I think how we learn it is from the evictions that we are doing this year. So overall, we had the most evictions we are having this year. But I have to also say, in our ratio, we get about 50 defaults a month. And we, out of that 50 in the past 6 months, we only had to proceed with 5 evictions, which I think is a very good thing. And the 5 that we had to proceed with are the people that was a very good rating. So you'll see here it says good or medium risk or so forth. So I don't know on how much you can really rely on this probability of squatting. The affordability also, again, make sure that the information is completed correctly.
Yeah, look, I always do my own affordability calculations because I don't know what they're working on.
And then the last thing that that's on all the things that I usually see is the inquiry information. I jump to that. The reason why I like to look at that is because Xpello's got a quite good relationship with quite a few agencies. So if I see 2 or 3 agencies has did an inquiry and it's now the third one, my question usually is, why did they not accept it previously? If you want to go through the whole process of getting a credit check done and everything, why not proceed with that lease agreement? Now, I said to Shaun, it's like going for an interview. You sort of learn as to what is working in your interview, what you have to change. Same thing with a rental application. You're going to tweak your application until you get approved. So, in that instance, don't be afraid to reach out to your colleague if you see somebody had done a credit check and ask them why they weren't successful. It's not, I do think that is information that is quite valuable.
Okay. Now, I'd like. Oh, I have control back here. It feels weird when I don't know why, but sometimes you can't touch things on your screens, on your screen rather, or I couldn't. So I just want to get back and just make sure. I know there were some further comments that I just want to. Okay, so now the question here that you answered, but I'm going to ask for clarification. And admin order, is that not like a garnishy order? Now, I don't know if this is, you said yes, also a garnishy. Is that the same thing or different things?
Remember that on the credit check, what they're doing is they are combining as to the orders that you have that monthly deduction. I think it's quite also interesting. I want to know if a court has made an order for maintenance, for example, to be deducted, and like that's the garnishing order that should pick up.
Will that be on this list?
Well, it should be picked up under that administrative orders. In my mind, it should refer to anything that was granted through a court to make payments. Your section 60,
Okay.
all of those type of things.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just going to share my screen, and I just want to. Okay, Elmarie, I'm going to get you. Okay, Elmarie's got a question before I go, just sharing my screen. When under debt review, by the way, guys, if you want to, you can pop me a question on 087 22 33 162, and that's a WhatsApp number. 087 22 33 162, and then I will put that question to Elize, and that way you don't have to appear live anywhere. Sorry, getting back to Elmarie's question, Elize. When under debt review, do you need a letter from the debt review company that they can enter into a lease agreement?
So the reason why you need the letter, I think that is the important part. So firstly, it's not like a sequestration or a liquidation. The reason why you need the letter is to confirm affordability. So to say your debt counselor, are they comfortable that you can afford the rental that you are applying for? Because it will be reckless to say give somebody, because now what's going to happen is they're going to go and say, I'm earning 50,000 Rand and my debt is now only 20,000 Rand. But it was only 20,000 Rand because your debt counselor got it reduced to the minimum amount. If you can, they can increase that. So you can't now go and stay in a rental place for 30,000 Rand. So your debt counselor has to have that confirmation and say, yes, this person will be able to afford, in terms of the greater schemes of things, rental up until 15 or 20,000 Rand.
Okay, so what you're saying is that one should have, I almost want to say a strict point here, that if somebody is under debt review, make the inquiry and get something from the debt reviewer, the person, the blah, blah, blah.
Definitely speak to them and get that details, because it also shows on, again, I know I'm repeating this, but if somebody is under debt review, please don't just ignore their applications. Some of the debt review people that Xpello has got, the tenants on our books, they are the best behaved, because they know that we've got hawk eyes on them. They're so glad for this opportunity. But if you get those people that go under debt, or they just applied, be careful for those, because you don't know if they're going to kick to it and you don't know what is the history.
You mean just apply for debt review?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I used to be one of those people that would ignore everybody under debt review, but that was in a different world, when I last practiced. So that was in a different world. And in those days, we had enough options available that, I'm sorry, I know it sounds nasty, but I have a responsibility to a landlord as an agent. Now, just to clarify something, when you say Xpello clients, you aren't a rental agency, so you're not in competition with any of our viewers. But when we say Xpello clients, we're meaning that somebody, that an agency or a landlord has brought you and said, I would like your eviction cover. Am I allowed to use the word cover?
Service, Xpello service.
Service, your eviction service.
Yeah, I want to almost say we like the vitality, we are a membership. So there's so many benefits that we are giving. And actually, there's quite a couple of agencies on here this morning that we work with closely with. And that's our clients are the agents that we can help them grow their businesses and guide them. And then, of course, the owner, the landlord, who pays for the service.
Yes. So when you're talking about your clients, you're talking about clients that are members, if you want to call it, with you. In other words, there's an agency involved or a landlord involved that you're dealing with, but you have decided after evaluation to take on that risk. And I think that's once again what I was trying to display in the beginning, is that you are taking on that risk because if anything goes wrong, you are having to pick up the tab, you as Xpello, from what I understand, for the legal cost of the evictions. You don't have, I don't think you have in your industry of attorneys, people that are that friendly, they'll do it for free. Yeah.
No,
I
attorneys
didn't think,
have to
I
eat
didn't
as
think so.
well.
They all smile on camera, but I didn't think they did it that way either. So now I just want to go on to, I think I'm on my sharing thing again. This number here, you can see my screen there, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, we can.
Okay, this number here. I know some people have these guidelines that if the number is this or the number is that, it's okay. Now, I don't understand these numbers now, because to me that number means absolutely nothing to me. I want to draw in the picture. Am I wrong?
No, not at all.
Okay. Another. Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad. I should have practiced this before and then asked you if I'm wrong before I went public. But anyway, such is life. You know, we've got to learn. And guys, if you have any questions, please pop them in there. I am getting to them now. Now, another thing that I noticed people don't put enough, well, I don't feel as if a lot of people put enough focus on this, is they will take the gross income, even before tax and medical aid and all that goodness, and they will divide it by the rental. And if it's bigger than 3, they fine, you know, that's all they do. But, and I use this particular, redacted credit check on purpose, because this particular tenant was their net income into the bank account every month. And this was the rental they were looking at. And so, of course, there's more than 3 times the rental in terms of the income. But something that, and as you can see, there's no judgments, no quotas, no inquiries, no nothing there. But the monthly installment, and if one uses a credit check without this information, it scares the bejesus out, the jeepers creepers out of me now, because their monthly commitments were 17,000. And that's why I use this credit check, because it's, you know, you've got 26,000, 17,000 gone, gone. You can't spend it. And then they want to rent for 7. And yeah, your thoughts?
Yeah, I have to say that has been one of the things that since our masterclass in January that we really have been focusing on. Again, that data is on the bank statement. There was actually a question that popped in my eyes saying, how do we know if a bank
that I'm coming to that question, and actually let me lead you into that question. Okay,
sorry.
Any tips on how to see if a bank statement is fraudulent?
Okay, so firstly, so if your credit check is a summary of what is on your bank statement. So I met the one agent, he was an old man, and he said to me, Elize, a bank statement is like a story. It should flow. So if you guys now take a bank statement, firstly, go make sure that the deductions and the add-ons actually equals the balance on the side, because people are very quickly to go and change the amount that gets paid in, but they don't take all the effort of going and correcting all of the balances on the side. So that's one of the things to go check. The other thing to check is, you know, a bank stamp doesn't say much, but make sure for spelling errors, dates, and then also see you know, does it make sense what they are putting in? People will doctor the following. They will doctor the income, because that is things, if there's weird spaces in a bank statement, be careful of that. But I've also seen legit banking statements. But what they've done is they'll put, let's say, I don't want to say, like, they'll take Donald Trump's bank statement, that looks most probably amazing, and then they'll just put my name and address on it. So the flow will be correct, and the only way that they pick that up is because they got the same different people with the same address.
Something that I was sent by a client a while back was you can, if you Google this now, you'll actually find this. You can create your own Capitec bank statement. Now, this is not nothing against Capitec, because somebody has now decided, obviously, that there's a market for this, so they've made this facility available. And that's quite scary. I mean, some of the things that, if I can put my input, some of the things that I do on a bank statement, And quite often I see in these fora, on like Facebook and places like that, I see people saying things like, the agent wants my bank statement, I'd never give it, blah blah blah. And I'm sorry, but my trite answer to that is, well, then you won't rent through me, because I'm not going to put anything to it. And I'm not being rude or anything. And I understand that people are nervous about it, but I want to, at the very least, have a look at the income that the pay slip is saying is getting paid in. I want to see that on the bank statement, because when these people put these things together now, they're not so clever always, Shaun. There might be clever ones, but there's not so clever ones. And you can actually catch them out by having a look at things like that about, did that same amount come in? What was the reference? Does it make sense? If it says Tani Poppy, then it might not actually be Smith Street Pty Limited. So I just can't see that you can actually do the proper analysis and double check things. And I know Poppy and all that goed and what people have done, and I'm not talking about Tani Poppy now, I'm talking about the Poppy Act. No? People say, oh, but I can't give, this is a new thing was now in the world. Oh, I can't give you my name because Poppy, oh, whatever. It's not about what you share, it's about how the person must protect it. You still got to give that information. You can't say, I'm not giving it because of Poppy. It means that people are getting crazy, man. Poppy crazy.
Absolutely.
So I'm just going to have a look. Oh, Elize, how do you manage to answer questions to when I've got 10,000 things? Okay, we've talked about fraudulent bank statements. Oh, guys, what I saw the other day, and I have to share this, not part of this. I got a proof of payment from somebody from FNB nogal, and I'll say the name. And it said that I could confirm it. And did you know I could actually go into the FNB website and I could put in those details, and it told me that the person had really paid me. I think that's super cool. So, because I've always said, I don't work on proof of payments, because I'm sure you can Google how to create a proof of payment and you'll find 100 sites that do that for you as well. Sorry, I'm going to stop sharing that thing. I don't want to give these people a bad name. So that's something as well that I know the FNB proof of payments now, you can actually go onto their site and you can put in the details and it confirms to you that the person did actually make this payment. I've looked for a few other ones that do it, but I haven't found it. So we're just going to get we've done the debt review, we've done the statement. Okay, Elize, another Elize. Non-residents, not all creditors appear on TPN. Sometimes not even the photo or history. More and more tenants are self-employed, just opened a business. Will you give them a chance? Now this links. Yes, okay, let's deal with that and then we'll get to the other question that I pre-prepared live.
So yes, we'll definitely consider them. We are very pro for people that is self-employed, that's growing businesses. But I do think is also the type of business, and one will have to make an assessment on the viability, or the prospects of success. That is one of the things that is quite something to have a look at. Also, some people don't have data on. Doesn't mean they are a bad applicant. That's where the supporting documents, again, is such important thing. Shaun, of course, I'm going to also add this because I'm so excited about this. So Xpello have really seen that, because vetting is sometimes so difficult. And I mean, now people say, the tenant comes and says, no, I will pay my rent. I'll pay it. How can you trust someone that says, trust me? My dad used to say, if you say somebody says trust me, you shouldn't trust that person, because they're trying to convince you. Now, Xpello has got the good faith certificate. So what that means is
Let's go slowly at the good faith certificate.
The good faith.
And this doesn't mean you need to have faith or believe in anything there.
No, there is. Okay. So it's the nice thing of the Latin, in Latin it's called the bona fide, showing that you're acting in good faith. Now, what that certificate entails is the tenant will actually pay for the Xpello services for a year. And we will then issue
the tenant will pay.
Yes, the tenant will pay the certificate. So they will pay Xpello service for a year, and that certificate is valid for a year. So that certificate they then can submit with their application. Now, what is valuable about this is the tenant is basically saying, I am going to pay my rent because now technically I already paid. If I don't pay, I'm going to get evicted. I paid for my own eviction. So that is sort of one of the things that a tenant can do. Now, people are saying to Elize, why will tenants do that? Is because they do want to apply for proper properties. People has fallen on hard times. So how do you show to someone, listen, I just came out of a divorce. I am now back on my feet. How do you do that? And this is a way to do that.
Okay, so tenants can approach you directly. I'm assuming that you take money, that it doesn't have to come through somebody else. Sorry, I'm not being facetious, but you know what I'm like. So they can approach you and get a good faith certificate, and then they can go and apply to a rental agency, or a rental agent can say, look, it's going to be better for me to, if you had a good faith certificate from Xpello, then it would be easier for me to motivate you to the landlord because you're a little wonky at the moment. I don't use the word wonky, guys, but am I correct?
Exactly that. It sort of gives that, and it also tells your landlord you did all the checks, and I mean and that certificate can be verified from us. So I'll quickly tell you, no, that's a fraudulent certificate, or yes, that is a good certificate.
Okie dokie. Sorry, I was just having a look at this Facebook thing. Sorry, I got myself confused there. It's very difficult to look at oneself. So then we also have, Leandra says, Xpello gives us so much peace of mind. If a tenant is in breach, I send out the 20 days notice, in other words, the LOD, 20 business days or 7 days, and hand them over to Xpello. It's just the best. Thank you, Elize and the team. I didn't, that came voluntarily. So Elize, maybe that's an opportunity to explain. Okay. I've got mommy's property with you now, which I must now look after as the power of attorney because I'm mommy's power of attorney. If I have a problem, I obviously send out the LOD, and our tenants on a month-to-month. So in their particular case, I just give them 7 days, etc. But let's say I do. Let's say mommy's tenants were on a fixed-term lease. And guys, if you've got any questions, the questions are coming in madly now. So I will, but I just want to put the scenario to you, because I may as well get free advice too, no? So I have a problem and the tenants didn't pay, and I send out an LOD. Now, when do I contact you, and what do you do for me?
Okay, so this also links up with Koketso's question as to who do we not accept. So firstly, if your tenant's already in breach and you basically need an eviction, we will not consider those people. We are not there to jump in at when the problem is. It's almost like having a car accident and then phoning the insurer and saying, can I insure my car? I need
those
something
people
to
on Judge Judy. They go to Judge Judy, those people. And they say, but I got it an hour later.
Yeah. That's not where we get in. So just to touch, and Johannes on here as well. The moment the letter of demand goes out, you can either CC breach at xpello.co.za, and after 7 days, and the only reason why I say 7 days in fixed term is because our stats has shown that when tenants get the letter of demand, remember, we want to keep the relationship between the agency and the tenant still on good faith. So if they get the letter of demand, usually they pay, or they go, oh, I forgot, and I'll quickly make the payment, or they'll contact you and say, listen, this has happened, I'm not going to be able to pay. The people that don't respond within 7 days, that shows there's a problem. And that's where we take all of that hassle off all the agents' hands and the owners, our clients. So we will then take it over, and we will take the negotiations, contact the landlords, and settle and negotiate the matter, that you don't have to take it any further. So you don't have to do this. What I say to agents is you guys don't have to do the screaming and the threatening and all of that. You focus on growing your business, and our very capable team will do the rest.
A professional screamer.
You know what? I've got an absolute charming guy. I laugh and say everybody that speaks to Johan says he's such a nice guy, but he just knows how to do his magic. And I think also to say, guys, we're not debt collectors. We know we're dealing with people, but we're problem solvers. So, for example, last year we had a tenant that wanted to move, but she didn't have a moving truck. So we arranged a moving truck on Xpello's accounts and we moved that tenant. Now, why would we do that? Because we pay
You want
for
them out.
sorry?
You wanted them out.
We wanted them out. And it's not because we don't want to pay for the eviction. I've got the best attorneys, we've got good arrangements, and we will pay them. But the thing is, the courts, it takes time. Even if you have the best attorney, it's going to take you about 12 weeks to get your eviction order, being a time period where the person is in the property where they're not paying. And you can see we get some very passionate about that.
Okay. Now, one question, sorry, before I get to Nicholas's question, which links up with the one that I got via WhatsApp yesterday in preparation, is sending the LOD, okay? Let's say the tenant says, I've got a problem and I'll be paying next week. Do you suggest the agent sends the LOD, or does the agent wait until next week to see, because they've most now given us an indication?
So this is a difficult one. I'll tell you what I tell my Xpello clients.
But you're a lawyer, so I'm allowed to ask difficult ones.
Yeah. So, but Shaun, the thing is also what I've learned is, the lawyer answer is very good for law and for the legal process, but it's not always good for business. Yeah, so you want to do the business thing as well. So what I say is, if it's an Xpello client, send out the letter of demand as soon as possible. If the tenant says, but I did tell you about everything, you can say to him, listen, it's not going to affect your credit record, but Xpello requires me to send this. So we're the bad guys, okay? And remember, if you now make the payment, it's just going to fall away and you don't waste time. So that's the benefit.
And it's not registered anywhere. It's not logged anywhere.
It's not locked anyway. The only thing that happens is if you delay the sending of the letter of demand and that person doesn't pay, you know how much time it wastes. I'm telling you how many times I get people getting so frustrated saying, yo, Elize, but I gave it last month. But then you did it only at the end and you're losing so much time. So I say to people, Xpello is the blame people. We're the people that forces people to send the letter of demands. We're the one that's asking the difficult questions and putting the pressure, and not the agency on our clients.
And in the end, time is money, because it's loss of rent to the landlord. I remember a case that I had a long time ago when I was still working in the industry, where nothing happened for 6 months, and then all of a sudden the lady wanted it done and she wanted an update every day on the eviction process. The courts don't care. The courts don't care that you're now in the big poo-poo, because you got to follow the process, and the process, there's no fast forwards. Elize, sorry.
We are getting sidetracked, and I think we're going to have this discussion again.
Yes,
but you're absolutely right.
No, that's fine. So, and just coming back to the questions, main thing we are dealing with is the question I got is sole proprietors and people with their own businesses. And Nicholas from Unicity Realty has put in here, private companies, no financial statements or management accounts. Director runs all personal expenses through company bank, no personal bank accounts. What's your thoughts on that?
Okay, so what is basically happening is the person is living through its business. So you're going to look at that business accounts exactly the same you would have looked at his personal accounts. That's also an instance. What I want to say is you do a credit check on the business and on the director, because what clever people do is they will either, now they defaulted and they were bad tenants, then they apply through their business, or vice versa. So always check, do a check on both of them and look at the income. Can the business support the family and pay the rent and all of that?
Okay. So now you said do the credit check on the business and the director, and I didn't pre-prepare this, but this works fantastically, because Tennis has just said, vetting a business though is a killer. Any tips? And on my WhatsApp line, I also have a question that says, how to do these checks on companies and business owners?
Okay, so what is quite nice is you get a search where you can, they call it a spider search on a director, and that will pick up all the businesses that person is involved.
A spider search.
Yeah, they call it a spy. So you do a director search, and you can actually see what businesses this
Oh,
director is
that's on
into.
Subsea.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Or Lexus, Nexus, it's got that search. And because then you'll be able to see if this person goes and he establish a business, incur debt, and then move on. Establish a business, incur debt, and move on.
So once again, this is the same as checking people changing addresses a lot on a personal thing.
Yes.
Yeah, they just change businesses, they stay at the same place.
Yes.
Okay.
So look at that type of thing for the business. See how long the business has been in business. I mean, it's almost everybody wondered, how do a company that was registered 3 days ago get a tender? There's questions on that. So I think that is quite important to look at. What is the connections? Where are they linked to? And what is the history of their businesses?
Okay. Another question I've got. People are willing to co-sign the lease, but they want it in their name and the company name. Your thoughts?
I think that is actually a good idea, because remember, the company is not going to stay in the property. So remember, the person doesn't have to be on the lease agreement to be evicted. I evict everybody that's occupying the property, whether in the lease or not. But you do want to use that as a pressure point to get people to pay. If somebody pays for, you want the director, everybody to have pressure if you don't get your money.
Okay, now if the director is on, let's say it's a sole director, there's only one director because it's a small company now, and the company signs the lease, might be the same person in the company's name, and then the same person signs in their own personal capacity. That what we're saying is the company will get a record, but of course they can just wind themselves up now. But the person themselves will also on their personal credit check have that history. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Does that remove then the need for the director to sign a personal surety?
Well, yes, because I mean, personal surety is only needed if he's not a lessee, so he's not bound by the.
They're not a signatory.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, personal surety versus on the lease.
I think it's the same thing, in the sense that no, it's not the same thing. Let me quickly rectify that. It's not the same thing if you look at it legally. If you're a co-lessee on the lease, you have the rights in terms of the lease agreement, and you will go against both of them, or you can decide whether you want to go against the one and then the other. It all depends. Also, both of them have the right of occupation. So you'll have to make sure that you cancel and you do a demand against both people. Don't just send a letter of demand against the company. You have to do it against both people. Where with surety, one will have to look at the surety document, because many times the surety document says you firstly have to make sure that you collect the debt from the main debtor before you can go against the surety.
I think at some point I'm going to do training on sureties, and I might call on you again, because I know that you've got to have, I don't know, there's all these funny things in sureties, expungens, and I don't know, funny thing is, but exclusions, and I don't know what's a goed is, but it basically, I probably got half the words wrong, but it's basically in a normal plain Joe surety, you got to chase the person who lives there and that's on the lease first, and then you got to chase the next person, which means you pay 2 times court costs and lawyer costs and gooders. But there's certain things that you can put in the surety where you can chase them all together.
Yeah.
Is that right?
A surety document has to be drafted correctly.
But what we're saying is, if they are signatory to the lease, then cool bananas.
Yes.
Okay. Now, obviously, you must be doing a very good selling job here, because Koketso's asked, who does Xpello not accept?
Okay, so that is luckily that has been answered, and that's the people that's already in default, the people that you already need to proceed with the eviction.
Okay, so those are the people that, no way, Jose. Okay. Then, okay, Almarie likes your good faith certificate. Angela has asked, what do you do if the applicant's credit checks, etc., are good and the application is approved, the tenant moves in, and it turns out that the tenant has a criminal record and is using the property. We're going slightly off here. Is using the property for, but it's part of vetting, I suppose, now. And is using the property for criminal activities. Criminal records don't show on credit checks. Whew.
Yes, it doesn't.
Elize, do you check criminal records? Do you know how?
No, I don't. I don't know if people always do that. But also, the thing is, if he's been convicted, one will technically have to take, if he's done his time, he is to be deemed to be reformed in terms of our criminal act. And if it's done beforehand and he hasn't been convicted as yet, he has to have an opportunity to prove him not guilty.
Okay.
So technically what we say is, if he looks like a drug dealer, don't consider him. Ask Xpello nicely to refuse them, and then you don't accept them because you can't find them guilty.
Do you have a picture that what they look like? Sorry. No, what's important here though is that Angela has said they're using the property for criminal activities. My personal opinion on this is some leases have this thing about if you are using the property for criminal activities, the landlord doesn't have to prove it, but can terminate your lease with immediate effect or something like that. So that's one option. I don't know how enforceable it is. The other option is criminal activity is a SAPS issue. I don't know that how much, and I know that's a trite answer, but also, you're allowed to most ask in an application form forms part of the end result. So if you have the necessary checks and balances in your application form where people have to fill out if they've got a criminal record, blah, 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 and they actually lie on it, and it turns out to be lies, then you're I don't know about all the technical things here, but then it turns out, and they've acknowledged that they've told you everything and blah, 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 and they've been honest, and then it turns out they haven't, then you can most actually cancel that whole lease agreement. Am I correct on the basis that your decision was based on fraudulent or incorrect information?
Shaun, I think that's going to be a very good litigation application and all of that. I think the onus on proving all of that is going to be much more difficult. It's going to be much easier just to cancel the lease on another basis. I see Karen Giddy gave a website where you can check criminal checks. So that's quite awesome, Karen. I love that. Thank you. Sorry, Shaun, I saw that popping up, and I thought that's quite valuable.
Clearly, something I've noticed is women are clearly better at multitasking because I'm not. Okay. If a tenant, okay, Sue Ellen has asked, if a tenant is willing to pay a couple of months up front, okay, everything checks out. You put all the information forward to the landlord and he accepts the tenant. However, a couple of months later, they stop paying rental or the municipality bill. How do we avoid these kinds of situations?
Yeah, Sue Ellen, I think that is what the question it comes down to. How do you avoid people not paying anything?
May I say something here? Yes. As soon as somebody offers me to pay money up front, I see it as a red flag, to be totally honest with you. Because the reality is it clouds one's judgment. In my experience, it clouds a person's judgment when you start doing a check because you think that money is okie dokie. And, or somebody's just sold the house and they tell you how much money they got in their bank account. The reality is that money is only worth a number of months and you've still got to get money after that. So sorry, I'm harsh. That's my opinion. You've still got to do all your checks the same as what you would any other way, in my opinion.
Yeah, because the right.
I mean, my question to you would be, if a tenant came to you and said, I've got enough money for the next 12 months rent, would you give them a good faith certificate?
Well, if they pay my services still, yes.
Okay.
My certificate is not confirming affordability. It's not confirming it. Mine is just saying that this person is a good favor shown by he's willing to pay for his own eviction.
Yeah. Okay.
Plus the stats, many people are coming to say, at least we don't need you because the people have paid up front. But what is shown is after the 12 months, then they don't continue paying because they can't afford it. And now they have to be evicted. And then they want to come to me and I go, sorry, it's too late. You can't come to us then. Shaun, you actually said something in your masterclass as well that was quite valuable, where you said that if somebody pays upfront for the year, that whole amount should not be paid to the landlord. The agent should keep it and
Oh,
release it per month. And
yeah.
I love
Sorry.
that idea. So, because technically what could happen then is they can take some of December's money and allocate it to the arrears and say to them, you are sort of running out of your money faster, but also then, place them on terms or deal with the errors.
The reason I don't advise paying it all over to the landlord, and this is unfortunately the issue with the upfront. The landlord sees the money in their bank account. I have a different picture. I see the money in the agent's bank account. Why? Because whether it's paid upfront or not, the person still has, if it's a fixed term lease, the right to cancel with 20 business days notice under the Consumer Protection Act, in which case you can't keep all of their money. You've got to give it back because it's rent in advance. And it's very clear in the regulations of the CPA that anything paid in credit has to be given back to them. So, that's why I say it's a red herring. People say, we're getting that money. We can spend it now. But you can't spend it because they can get it back at any point in time. And so money up front is not really worth the value that it's often ascribed to it, if I can put it that way. One of our tenants, this is from Shaun. I'm just checking, nobody's doing private stuff to me. One of our tenants stopped paying a week before I'm going to just go through questions now. I'm going to stop giving a commentary because I talk too much. One of our tenants stopped paying in a week before the eviction notice was to be delivered. He starts paying again, but he only pays the rental amount. No effort is made to pay the arrears. What can we do about such a tenant?
Okay. So firstly, when you accept the money, please do take the money, because many people say they don't take the money. So please take the money. You say, thank you very much. I'm going to allocate it towards the arrears, but your lease agreement is still cancelled and we still want you to vacate.
Important. So you can allocate it to arrears. You don't allocate it to current.
Okay, but that's sorry, but just to come back, referring to an eviction notice. So that's not the same as a cancellation. So if you haven't cancelled the lease agreement and the lease agreement is still in place, and they remedy their breach, then the breach is remedied and you continue as normal. Okay, so remember, they've got 20 days or 7 days to make the payment and life goes on as normal. If you cancel, because many people, what they do is they cancel, but they give them until the 30th of the month to vacate. If you cancelled and they make payment before the vacate date, it doesn't reinstate the lease. So that is just an important time to know when the payment is made, but always take the money. If you're not sure how to allocate it, you're welcome to contact us and ask us.
Okay. And as you say, I'm catching up with the woman eventually. Karen has given a website that does criminal checks. She used them when working in an employment agency. So if that's something, guys, if you do this, you can make that your USP, your unique selling point to your landlords. In the end, it's about standing out and being slightly different. Nicholas has asked, and Nicholas, Nicholas. Okay. Ilse says Nicholas has a good question, so I'm asked this. Do you need tenant consent to do a criminal check?
Yes.
Well, you know what, Nicholas? I'm going to go to mie.co. Let's see what it says. Because then what we will do is we will adapt the application form and write it in. Yeah, and of course, if they don't want to give you consent, then I think you've got your answer. How much is a good faith certificate, Elize?
So it's our normal Xpello fee is 185 Rand plus VAT per month per unit. But for the good faith certificate, it's a fee for a year upfront, so it's 1,800 VAT inclusive.
1,800 including VAT.
Especially
okay, sorry.
So sorry, no. I see my accounting people and everybody must probably scream. It's 1,008 excluding VAT, sorry.
Excluding VAT. Okie dokie. Now, guys, I've just gone on to, maybe I'll share my screen quickly. Here is, just the same way that to do a TPM credit check, you've got to have somebody's permission and it's got to be written into your application form. This is commercial vetting, unique solutions, blah, blah. The qualification, criminal record checks, credit checks, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to leave this up to you guys to have a look at. I would assume you would need a permission of somebody, so you would need to adapt your application form. But thank you, Karen, for sharing that. mie.co.za. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to go back to the questions. Elize Alice has said from Engel and Volker up your way, somewhere other Elize. Some landlords do not accept rent up front. They see it as money laundering. Okay. There is a thing in the FICA that says if you have suspicious transactions, you've got to report it to the Financial Intelligence Center, and this amount of money possibly paid in cash into something could maybe be a suspicious transaction. So the reality is with money up front, guys, the thing with money up front is that that money can be retracted at any point in time by simply doing a 20 business day cancellation under Section 14 of the Consumer Protection Act. So let's not get sidetracked by that. Okay, so your good faith certificate. How much, yes, is this monthly or one-off fee? One-off fee, 1,008. Oh, okay, Elise's answered. Yo. Shaun, can you ask Elize how we can handle a situation? Oh, sorry, this is an anonymous. Ask Elize how we can handle a situation whereby we have vetted the tenant and approved them, and they have paid the lease agreement, but don't pay to secure it. And they've signed the lease agreement, but don't pay to secure it. The landlord is threatening to claim the rental amount from our agency. So what has happened is, Elize, the tenant has been vetted, approved. I'm assuming the landlord did approve it. The tenant signed the lease agreement. You haven't answered whether the landlord has signed it, Ms. Anonymous. The tenant has signed the lease agreement, but they haven't paid their money. This is, sorry, Elize, but this is, in my opinion, going to depend highly on what the lease agreement says. I know the latest TPN version says that the lease agreement actually only becomes active once certain things have been paid. In other words, it's sort of on hold until then. So I think that would depend on the lease agreement. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think it will depend on the lease agreement and some of the other circumstances. I don't think we have enough time and all the details to be able to answer that one correctly.
The person that sent that, can you pop me an email, because you are part of my rental training club, so you can pop me an email and with a copy of that lease agreement, I'll go through it and I will liaise with Elize if necessary, but I will be able to give you at least an idea. What I can say is from yesterday's rental training club training, in that lovely unfair practice regulations, if the tenant signs it and gives it to the landlord and then takes occupation and things like that, it can also play a role in all of these things, because, yeah. Is deposit and half or double deposit charged? Ilse, is deposit and half or double? In other words, what deposit? I think the question here is, what deposit do you recommend, Elize?
Oh, no, goodness, Shaun, that's something that you would suggest. I think that's an agent, good practice.
Okay,
the agency in the.
I'm simply non-negotiable on a 2-month deposit. And to be honest, guys, that has to do with the fact, and we'll go into it another time. Guys, you're welcome. I have a rental training club, which I haven't told you about, where we do monthly rental training, 2 hours training. Individuals start at 199 Rand. For teams, it starts at 99 Rand per person, but there's a minimum of 10 team members. I will send out some information on this. And I also have sorry, Elize, that I'm barging in, but you've got good faith and goodness. I don't have that. I also have a rent assist package, 499 Rand per month. You can call me on these questions, these sorts of things, and I will take your call, unlike other people. I will take your call. I will answer it. I will send you a voice note, and I'll actually speak to you on the phone. Any of you that are part of that, you might want to just confirm that I do actually answer the phone and answer questions. So I say 2 months deposit, because the bottom line is, if you have to cancel a lease, you're going to be 2 months behind at the very minimum to legally cancel a fixed term lease. So that's the short answer. There is something on my blog, but we'll go into that. Pierre has said, proper criminal checks on fingerprints. Okay. Need to be done in person with a little machine that you place, etc., etc. But you must have written consent. Thank you for that. Rental club, I must do. Thank you, Michelle. Michelle is one of the people in my rental club. Elize has shared all her personal information. Remember, under Poppy, you better not share that with other people. I'm sure we don't
Listen,
mind about Poppy. Share it
that's
as
not
much as you like.
you guys can use my number. That is detail that's so available there. So
Yeah,
there's my details. You guys can keep
I
it.
agree. I remember when I went to New Zealand, they had a privacy act. I said to somebody at some point, I was in a bitchy mood, if I may say that. If I meant, well, you'll have to just block that. But and so I said to somebody, "What's your name?" And they said, "Oh, I can't tell you under the privacy act." I was like, "Oh." Anyhow, so 1,800 for the goods. Can one not add your fee to the deposit amount?
Shaun, I want to say, Manine, I don't know where you are from, but that is a fantastic idea. I mean, Shaun, I know you said 2 months non-negotiable, but if you say 1 month deposit plus the certificate, I can't see how that is not going to be a way to grow your business like crazy. Manine, please let me know how that works. What is the take on? I love that idea. Sorry, I just got excited because
I've Elize, I don't like that you want to negotiate the deposit down there, because I think if you just no. The point is, let's be honest, that nobody's rent is 1,800 rand a month there, so we can reduce it by 1,800 rand a month if they're going to take that. I'm happy with that. Anyhow,
well, maybe
either
a
way,
month and a half plus the certificate. Maybe you'll be happy with that too.
Oh, you know, all those 27 things that I saw there, half of them were you, Elize, just putting goedes in here. Guys, any other questions? Feel free. I'm surprised. Okay, so sorry, Elize, I have a private question here. Can you please ask Elize how we can handle a situation where sorry, this person obviously put it there and then put it here too. You know who you are. Just pop me an email, Shaun, Shaun, at ShaunLuyt, ShaunLuyt.co.za. Let me just check. I almost said a name and then I didn't check. Rufaro recording. Yep, no problem at all. I will be happy to share the recording.
Shaun, can I interrupt you quickly? Can I ask in the pop before, because I know everybody's starting to move on. Did you guys see value in this session this morning? And would you guys like a session like this more often? I would definitely like to know, because this is nice, because this is not like a seminar. It's an interaction, talking a bit, So I would quite like to know if we should arrange this again.
Okay. So Ilse has suggested a compulsory fee to be added in interest, especially where a person who was without working is back on the earning game. Tomorrow I'm showing a house to someone who has been without work for 5 years. So I think this might be a smart plan to help this person. However, protect the owner whom I represent. The reality is we always represent the owner, and we have this fiduciary, which means something, relationship that we have to protect the owner. So Ilse, I couldn't agree with you more. 1,800 Rand a month, nah. I mean, not sorry, Lisa, a year. A year is what, 150 Rand a month or something? Ex-VAT?
So just to say, the nice thing is, if you take 185 plus VAT, it comes down to 212 Rand, more or less, times 12. That is still more than the 180 plus VAT. 180 comes down to, I think, 150 plus VAT per month. So there's a big save as well.
Yeah, 150 plus VAT. Yeah. What if we add the monthly fee of blah, blah, blah to the deposit to secure the landlord? Manina's gone and worked out the VAT for you, Elize. If you want
to. We have to drink coffee, Manine. Where are you? But I'll get your details.
Manine, whereabouts are you? You can't drink coffee in Gauteng at the moment. You got to do it virtually. You send Mr.
I'm here.
Oh, hello, Manine. You can send a coffee with Mr. D, and then you can both sit and sip on it in your own houses. So are you in Gauteng, Manine?
Yes, I am. I work in the Sandton area, And I'm just seeing, I'm one of those business-minded people, and I'm just seeing when I worked out the figures for a whole, let's say, a year's lease, okay, of the 185 Rand plus VAT per month, worked out to that figure that I put there, 2,000 and something. We add that to the deposit, which then covers the landlord for any evictions. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
But Manine, you know why I get excited about this, and I'm hijacking Shaun's thing, is we want businesses to grow, and we want people to use agents. I refer landlords to my agents as often as I can, because landlords do not always know how to manage their agent, the matters. So when people get this way, that's why I say, please, we need to touch base. Let's see how we can help you and roll this out. We'll give you whatever you need, because we need to protect, guys. This is a good industry. Property is not going to go anywhere. People have grown, but there will always be rentals. People are getting scared because it's not done correctly. If we can give our landlords that peace of mind, and I feel I've got a soft spot for agents. Agents, if we can,
brilliant service. It's a brilliant service, and you know what? It's not even that expensive. I mean, instead of asking for a double deposit or a slightly higher deposit, rather add your services in and know that they're protected. I mean, it's really a no-brainer. And I thank you so much. I'm so glad that I came onto this this Zoom meeting, because it's really something that I would never even have thought about. But I'm sitting here listening, and my brain's working on all figures and all kinds of things, because that's who I am. But I thank you for it, and I think I will most definitely utilize your services.
Great.
And Manine, you are warming the cockles of my heart in the freezing wet Cape now, because when one offers this sort of session, you know what? I've been surprised. We've had over 100 people, Elize, for over more than an hour on this, and I think this is exactly the reason why we created this. I had feedback. I popped into one of my clients at Tyson in the Western Seaboard a few weeks back, and the first thing I said, because we always ask these silly questions, and then we're sorry about them afterwards, where we say, what's your biggest challenge? And the answer was credit checks. And then I had another client who said, Shaun, I follow your process, but I haven't been able to tenant the property because they don't pass your vetting criteria. And that's when I approached Elize, and I said, Elize, there's clearly a problem out there. We need to help people. So I'm so happy. I'm so happy, Manine, and thank you. And guys, it's not only Manine. Elize, you might have your diary booked by asking that question there about whether Manine, don't disappear, because I wanted to make something else if you can come back. We have a lot of interest, some more discussions. Something that's interesting, Manine, and maybe this is just me that has a different colored view of life. You said you were in Sandton, okay? And I'm not going to discriminate against you or hold it against you. But what you're saying is we have a perception that it's the lower income areas that are having the problems. And the fact that you are in Sandton, I assume work around that area, says that that's a fallacy to me, or it indicates to me, am I right?
Right. It's all over.
Okay.
And it's funny times we're living in. And I think these kind of measures in the circumstances that we're all living in, we all need to take that kind of insurance. I mean, the more you've got, the better you are. And I think for landlords to sleep well at night, being in this kind of environment by utilizing the service is absolutely awesome.
Thank you. And thank you. You warmed the cockles of my heart. It's just the rest of my body that's still freezing, especially my head, because I haven't got allowed to wear my dookie. Elize, a question, I see you've answered it already, but I think it's important for us to bring this to everybody's attention. Does this only apply to managed leases?
Yeah. So I actually have, especially with procurement, you can add that as well. And of course, you can resell the Xpello service to people at a higher rate. So if you want to do a bit of an admin fee on that. So
Manine,
yes.
Manine, there's your gap there.
I am dropping my currently diary link.
I saw that.
You see, now I'm organized. I'm taking the opportunity. You guys can click on that, and we can set up a virtual coffee, and I will answer questions, and we can see how Xpello can help your business and help your business grow.
Okie dokie. So, guys, we're going to wrap this up. I am surprised that we have had so much. I don't know, Elize, what your expectation was. I certainly didn't expect the number of people that we've had stay live on the session. And then that just indicates it's not me and you that's so exciting there, because I mean we haven't even practiced this. It just says to me that this is where there is a need. Let me just, sorry, before I do this, just check if I've got any other questions coming through. Nope, my WhatsApp seems clear. And I think we're clear. Elize, just to clarify this, I didn't pay Elize for this. I can't afford to pay an attorney. But thank you so much. It's clear to me from everything that has been shared in the feedback to your question about are you interested in having more of this. It is very clear to me that yes, there is interest out there to having more of this. So we can have a look at it. I called it Ask an Expert. I think that I was certainly correct in that naming, and the expert wasn't me there. But no, it wasn't. Sorry, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm doing something. Oh, okay, sorry. Guys, you are all welcome. Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much. 86 people after, how long? Oh, 2 hours.
2 hours. I think we should make coffee with Elize and Shaun. I think that would be a nice Friday event.
Yeah, but you know the problem, Elize. You might have people there. You got minions because you got a coffee there. My coffee finished long time ago. I can't. I'll have to get an assistant here if we do coffee with Elize and Shaun. Then I have to get a different coffee mug too. So I've got a lovely big white one. She will get kickback like crazy now. Thank you. I'm excited to make contact with Elize. She will get kickback like crazy now. I think that kickback is positive. Thank you, Shaun and Elize. Thank you. Guys, you're all very welcome. I didn't have anything else to do this morning. It was lovely to Sorry, I am like this now. Usually with training, we get food. Well, Tinus, if you didn't order food in through Mr. D, I really can't assist you there. Just saying.
Leandro, I just want to say, Leandro, you are close to our hearts. Thank you for positive feedback. I'm jumping the gun. I had to say something for Leandro Wyk.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Xpello rocks. Oh, I saw that. Yeah. Sorry. You see, obviously being gay doesn't even help with multitasking there, because you're like half an hour ahead of me. So although we're at 2 hours, I'm still at 1 hour, 30 minutes. Guys, thank you very much. It seems to me like it was a positive experience, Elize. It seems to me like people found it very useful. I am most appreciative, guys. I will be sharing the recording. What I'll do is, I know I don't have your information under Poppy, and please don't all put yes in the thing is, because I'm not going to check it. I am, however, allowed to reach out to you and share the information with you, and I will then give you a link where you can subscribe yourself. Yeah, seeing that we're in July, to my mailing list. But I will send out, I believe I'm allowed to send out one information thingy, which I will do and give you the opportunity to then get more. Thank you very much. We will certainly, I cannot believe that people have stayed on so long. We will certainly share more information, and we will certainly hold more of these. It's called an Ask an Expert. So by the way, when I save this, I'm also going to save, it saves the chat as well, guys. I never stop talking. It saves the chat as well. So if there's anything, I'm going to stick around for a little while. I'm going to leave it open for a little while without ending it. Guys, please don't feel that you're rude if you leave us. We fully understand you have real lives and real clients and things. And I know you want to get on the phone to Elize and make an appointment with her. All those, and she wants it too because she shared it again there.
I'm trying to share my Facebook page. I want to say to people, please go live our Facebook page. We've got very nice tips that we're putting up there. So we are advertising the benefits. We've got discounted partners. You see, I'll watch now. Now's the time to sell. We've got discounted partners on there.
I gave you an opportunity at the beginning. I was going to do mine at the end, but carry on.
Go for it, Shaun.
No.
I just put it in there.
Guys, all I have is the Rental Training Club, the Rent Assist subscription. I have a lot of rental training. I almost said accredited, but you're not that advanced. Maybe I can get a good faith certificate. I am endorsed by, amongst other things, Xpello, EASA, etc. In terms of my rental training. So I will share that information with you. Sorry, Elize. I'm not going to make a blah blah out of it now, but I will share that information. I also have a Facebook page. I'm only gay. I'm not a woman, so I can't share those links and do everything and talk at the same time. I just can't do it. I just can't cope. So yeah, guys, thank you.